Chris, can we bring Chris? We're not going to break, right, Xander? Can we bring Chris up? Marcus Smith is a draft pick that they faltered on. And back in that year, the Eagles had, I think it was 6 players on the board, and they just came off, bop, 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 right in the disastrous order. And they said, they didn't have the contingency, and Howie's learned from that. And they ended up with Marcus Smith, and we got our buddy Chris Franklin. He's got the big T up there. Welcome into the show, Chris. So if you heard us talking, we're talking about Jalen Hurts. And I guess the bigger philosophy, and we'll ask you the same question, do you think this deal changes the way the Eagles will draft next week?
Well, I think we know they're not going to take a quarterback in the first 4 or 5 rounds now. So you got that. So that's that one. I think you don't have to worry about that.
I don't think that contingency was ever on the board.
But
I'm comfortable with that. Yeah,
I think it's fine. I think if it does in any way, I think you have to focus most of your resources now on addressing the defense, because I think when you look at just some of the Hurts thing just solidify what you had, that you're going to use a lot of your salary cap now. And when you look at the other bigger contracts that the team has on there, most of them are all on the offensive side. So you're going to need to find cheaper, younger talent elsewhere. And I think that's where you start to look at the defensive side and say, you know what, maybe we should start loading up on these areas right now, use the draft to fill those stuffs, because you got a lot of guys coming that are older, like Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox leaving. Use those assets to build that way too. Keep that side of the ball, the more affordable side of the ball, and just say, hey, you know what, offense runs this. We'll run with this offensive unit now and just use those picks elsewhere.
All right, let me give you a hypothetical to prove my point that I think this does affect the way the Eagles look at things. At number 10, let's say the Eagles stay at 10. There's no moving up. There's no Jalen Carter. There's no Will Anderson. We'll even take Tyree Wilson off the table. But any other defensive, do you not agree that those guys will be gone before 10?
I think Carter's the one I think is the wild card. And I wouldn't be surprised if they traded up to get him. I really wouldn't put that out the realm saying, you know what, they're not going to move up. I could see moving up to 7 potentially, to moving that way, to be packaging 10, 30, maybe one of those second or third round, probably one of those third round picks from next year, because they're probably going to have 2. I'd package those things and move up to 7 and pick one of those guys. But if they stayed at 10, yeah, I think they're all going.
All right. If write this down, if we don't have Chris on next week, he thinks they're getting either Tyree Wilson or Jalen Carter. I don't. I think they will be gone. I don't think they have the wherewithal to trade up for either of the two. But Chris thinks that's a possibility. Not happening. But let's say those 2 guys are off the board, not in play. Give me your next 2 defensive players who would be available at 10, and comp them to either Skoronski or Paris Johnson. They're going defense over offense, or they're going offensive line. Whichever 2 edge guys you want to put into the mix, because there's about 3 or 4 of them that some people have mocked in that 10, 11, 12 range. You'll take one of those edge guys over one of those offensive line guys? You think Howie Roseman's going to go there with Jeff Stoutland whispering in the ear going, give me another O-lineman. We got the 10th pick. We need a superstar offensive line. You're going defense over offense, huh?
I can see right now. I can imagine Statland's voice. Howie, you better take Skoronski while you have him right now. You better take him. You better take him. But me, I'm taking Nolan Smith. I really like what he brings off the edge. I think you can, because look at after 2023, you got a lot of questions of who's going to be your edge rushers besides Hassan Reddick, because Derek Barnett's gone. He's still coming off that ACL. Graham, you don't know if you're bringing back for another year. You look at, I believe Sweat is going to be around that time where he's going to get paid his cap number is going to be big as well too. So you needed another edge rusher, a younger guy as well too. I think he fits the bill. And at 10, the other one, and I'm more and more film I'm watching him, more and more I like Miles Murphy a lot, just for a simple fact that I think he can develop another I think he can get coached and get another set of pass rushing moves. And if he does that, I think he could be another dynamic guy on there. I like the way he plays against the run as well too. And given that this defense is a little bit lighter and not as big as it used to, you could use guys like that not only have quickness but has some size as well too. So he's the other guy I'm looking at. But at 10, I'm probably I'd probably stick with Nolan Smith. And then you compare it to Skoronski, I'm still like Smith a lot. I really do. I think you can find a good guard later on in the draft. And I think the Eagles proven that they've done that as well too. So I look at the dynamic parts. If you want him to be your starting left tackle or starting right tackle today, then I think you get Skoronski. If not, I think you can get
Yeah, I
those
don't
guys
think
later
he's
on.
going to be the starting right tackle today. I'm
Yeah,
comfortable saying that.
Just let me tell
yeah.
Chris this. By the way, we'll get a free plug in here
Oh yeah,
for our
Rick
buddy Rick
Saratella.
Saratella. NFL Draft Bible.
Rick's
The
cool.
print version is out. You know who he's got the Eagles getting at number 30, second first round pick? Miles Murphy.
Yeah.
As number 30. Holy mackerel. How great would that be if the Eagles could get one of the best?
I think he's got
guys at number
Skoronski.
30.
I think he's got Skoronski at 10.
Yeah, see, I'm with Saratella. I think they're going offensive line and edge afterwards.
Well, now Chris was on the call. I mentioned Mark Dominic earlier in the show, and Chris was the one who asked him the question. So it's good we have him on. And Mark, who knows Howie pretty well, they entered the league, sort of had that sort of him and John Snyder, Howie Roseman. And they got pretty close. And, and Mark was like, he's probably more apt to go up and get one of those three defenders, one of them being Jalen Carter, the other two. I think it's he's not going to be able to get high to get Will Anderson. Tyree Wilson, sort of that middle ground. And he brought up, look, he's got the quarterback now. This whole philosophy over the past 2 years was the insurance plan in case Jalen Hurts didn't develop into what he has become today. I think people I've been using that term, memory hole. This time last year, we were all like, I don't know if Jalen Hurts is the answer. They got to get out of this draft, get the extra pick, because Kenny Pickett, nobody else was worth a first-round pick. It was a terrible quarterback draft. Now all of a sudden you have potentially 4 going in the top 9. If he needed a quarterback, he'd be in a position to get the quarterback. But he doesn't need a quarterback. He needs to repopulate that defense, though. And Mark was like, you better go up and get one of those difference makers. I'm starting to buy into that. But I don't think he can get up high enough to get Will Anderson. Hell, I think Will Anderson might go to Houston. I think they're dumb enough to pass on a quarterback.
But it's also lion season too. We're full-fledged in lion season.
He might have Mark out there lying. You're right.
And start going, well, you know what? All those minds are going to start throwing out there going, well, that Houston stuff. If they decide, Davis Mills is their guy from here on out.
Come on.
If we all know the thing, bless his heart. I think that when you look at the whole entire floor, bless their hearts with that one. But I just look at overall. Anderson, I think, goes third, fourth. He doesn't fall to them in that way too. But I don't think there's that many after you get past, let's probably say 27, 28. There's not that many impact defensive guys that are going to be up there that you could put on this defense today and say, you know what, he's going to be a bona fide starter. He's going to be a star right now. He's going to be able to play right today. So if you want one of those defensive linemen, you're going to move up. And we know how he doesn't want to sit on his hands. I think either they're going to make a trade to move up on one of those picks, either 30 or 10.
I just think there's a better chance, and most people think they're going to trade back at 30 because you want to get out of the first round. You don't want to have that fifth year option. I think there's a better chance how he trades up from 30 into the mid-20s than there is him trading up from 10 to 7 to get somebody, because the cost is that much more to move up that high in the first round. I think Howie will trade back in one and up in the other. We'll see exactly how it plays out. All right, I did read one of your articles this past week that I agreed with because you and I saw it the same. Why isn't Jarvis Landry the Eagles wide receiver 3 yet?
I think it's a time where I look at what he can do, and I look at what he can bring to this thing. I think he's just waiting to see the opportunities. I'm looking at the time where if he's in this office right now, I mean, he's before the previous 2 seasons, he was getting about 100 targets a year, 100 targets. And to be put into this offense right now, he wouldn't get nowhere near that, because then you're going to figure out, well, we're going at this guy who's a little older. We don't know if he's reliable, if he can still be the same guy. Let's go take something away from A.J. Brown or Devonta or Dallas. And you're like, oh, crap. But if he comes in for the right price, he's willing to take that role, and you can use him as the slot guy A, slot guy B, whoever he would be. To me, in my opinion, I think he'd be the top better slot guy opposed to Quez Watkins. You can to appease him. You could go back and forth that way. I think he's worth it if he comes in, if he's willing to do that, and nobody else is willing to give him like 10 million, 11 million. If he wants to say, hey, you want 6 with a bunch of incentives that probably be out there, I'd bring him in that.
I don't even think he's in that neighborhood, Chris. I think he's a below $5 million a year guy at this stage, and it's paining the heck out of him. So it's going to come down. Would I rather go to a team that's going to make me wide receiver 2 and give me 100 targets, or would I rather go to a Super Bowl contender and know that I'm wide receiver 3 and get half of those targets, if that, but I got a chance to get a ring? If the money's the same, which do you think he chooses? The more action or the better team to join with the chance to get a ring?
I think at this point in his career, I think it's the ring. But also, I've thought about this as well, too. Another reason would be, why have to go through all the OTAs and everything else if you're a veteran guy? Might even come closer and closer to training camp or
the old
weekend.
Don't bother for the workout. You think he's signing in early July, huh?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, wait a little bit. Let me go to Cabo. I'll still work on the beaches a little bit.
Go full-blown Linval Joseph come in November. I think that's the case.
Clement set up for everybody.
Yeah. If the Eagles want a receiver, go get a receiver in the draft. One of the things I was talking to an ex-Eagles personnel guy, Chris, and he brought up a good point, which resonated with me. Eagles offense is about spacing.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Sirianni mentioned, Quez had a disappointing season. Quez admitted that, but flat out. I don't think anybody was happy with Quez Watkins. But he did mention, Quez can run by people. So, you got to respect that at least. And that opens the field up for AJ, Devontae, Dallas Goedert underneath. I think they want a speed guy in that third receiver slot. And it doesn't even have to be a slot guy, because slot guys aren't known for stretching the field. Quez Watkins shouldn't be a slot guy. He's an outside receiver. He should be the backup outside receiver. Then you move Devontae Smith in the slot on third down, or A.J. Brown. You could do it in a whole bunch of ways because the other two guys are so versatile. But I do think his speed is meaningful for this particular offense. So I want a speed guy who can actually catch the football when he gets the football. Is that hoping for too much?
That was the thought that how to put it this way, another coach for another team, assistant for another team, believed when they saw Quez, they were surprised that they didn't see him in the slot more against them as well too, because they were worried about that matchup against the safety. The reason why I like Landry in the slot in that aspect is because you got another route technician, and if you place him, if you go trips on one side, and I gotta realize, okay, I have to worry about either AJ going against on a fade run, one-on-one, and you're going to try to rotate a safety that way too. But now I have to worry about Jarvis Landry, who I know can get the catches, who's a good receiver, a good possession guy, who can get around that way as well too, find himself getting open. Oh yeah, let's throw Devonta Smith or put Quez that way too, get some speed. I think you have a lot of, or even Dallas Goedert. I think that poses a lot of matchup problems that you don't necessarily have to have a guy that says, okay, I'm going to run past you and go 20 yards and then I'm going to try to chuck it. And I don't really respect that guy because I don't know if he's going to catch the ball. It's a 50-50 chance he's going to catch that ball. And last year was probably 40-60 when it came to Quez. So I think if you add a guy with Landry inside that way, you got to pay even more attention to that inside. And I think that can open up the spacing a little bit as well too. I know it's not going to be in the conventional way, but I think that Landry provides the opportunity if you put him in there.
Here's what I think about Quez and his speed. And he's not going to reach the level of Derek Barnett wrath of yours truly, but he's starting to get close. Quez can run fast, then straight line downfield. Here would be my take if I were an opposing defense coordinator. Go ahead. I don't think you're going to catch it anyway.
Can't do that. Can't do that.
We've never seen that in sports. When a team goes out in the NBA and acquires a three-point shooter, we're going to get him to space the field, space the court, space. You let the guy shoot and he's making 20% from three. Go ahead, take the threes. We're not going to go out and chase you. We're not going to help out on defense
I don't think
inside. You got to be
can't-
able to make. You got to be able to make the three. You got to be able to make the catch.
Boy,
Quez is not. I don't think Quez is like the Ben Simmons of like the slot or
No.
anything. He's nowhere near that. No, you
I
got to
mean,
because he can make some catches once in a while. It's not the frequency you want to see him.
if you're a safety in the NFL and you're letting a wide receiver run behind you, I mean, that's the quickest way to get fired. A defensive coordinator to get fired, a head coach to get fired. Yeah, he might drop the odd wide open pass because they're letting him run by him. But I mean, he's an NFL receiver. If he's got nobody near him, he's going to catch the football. You can't do that, Jody. I mean, you have to respect.
Here's my point, John. We'll use Jarvis Landry as an example. You don't think Jarvis Landry can run by somebody and catch a 50-yard touchdown pass?
Not like Quez Watkins. Quez can run by anybody in this league. Quez is closer to Tyreek Hill than he is to the average NFL. He can run by people. That's all he can do.
Well, then why don't they play Devin Allen?
Well, hey, they might, he hasn't played football in 6 years, but if they could develop him, I think you're dismissing. Quez Watkins is not the worst receiver in the history of football. Devin Allen he's a below average NFL receiver, Quez Watkins, but he's an NFL receiver. Devin Allen is a project who's an Olympic hurdler, played football at Oregon, took 6 years off. Hopefully he turns into Jordan Mailata. And yeah, then you got to respect him. But we're a long way off from that. Quez Watkins is a legitimate football. I can't believe I'm defending Quez Watkins. It always amazes me on this show. Well, you go too far. That's why. So I got to defend the guy. He's not the worst. He's not like
Do
a
the Eagles need to upgrade wide receiver 3? Are you telling me you think Quez Watkins is good enough to be the Eagles wide receiver 3 for Jeff Lurie, an owner who says offense?
Yeah, I say all the time they need to upgrade wide receiver 3.
Okay, and that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but you went to, don't pay attention to them they got to need an upgrade. There's a big chasm there. Yeah, they could use an upgrade. But he's also not the worst football player who's ever strapped him up. He's competent. You could do better.
Chris and I said we would like to see the Eagles get Landry as their wide receiver 3, and you said, "Well, no, but Quez stretches the defense. And you got to have that."
I said I would prefer a young guy who can stretch the field. I want that speed because the Eagles' offense. And the same thing with the running game. Same thing with Bijan Robinson. Why I don't want Bijan Robinson? Because they don't need him because of the way they space the field. Jalen Hurts is a big part of that. His ability to threaten the backside in the running game. And Quez is a big part of that because he can run by people. And Nick has brought this up. The head coach has brought it up. Now, is he part blowing smoke up, try to build Quez Watkins back up after a disappointing season? Yeah, I'm sure he is. But the guy runs a 4.32.
It's funny you guys mentioned Bijan because I'm looking at when it comes to 30, I wouldn't mind him seeing Gibbs in that, getting Gibbs out of Alabama in that role because I think you can use him not only as a running back, but he can be your you can put him in the slot if you need to. If you're still want to have some of that speed, he's a decent enough receiver. I think you can use him if you want to use him in the slot a couple of times, so that way it'll give you some of that speed if you want to do that as well too, and you can use him in that jack of all trades role. So he's the guy I wouldn't be opposed to if they say, hey, you know what? If they don't move, they stay at 30. I take the risk and even take them in 30 overall because I don't think they'll be able to get him where they're picking right now in the second round. But he's a guy I think you can put him in the slot once in a while. He can help you out there too. If Quez is going through a rut or something like that, I think you rely on Gibbs in that aspect.
It's interesting you bring that up. Well, Matt Manicharan we had on the show. I don't know if you know him, Chris. I love the guy. Former scout for the Saints and the Browns. Just does tremendous work in personnel. But, he had mentioned you could use Bijan in the slot. And I hear you with Jamar. But, boy, I don't trust any of these coaches. When guys say that, they never do it. except Kyle Shanahan. If you give him to Kyle Shanahan, I'll buy it. Anybody else, when I hear, oh, you can play him like a slot receiver, they're not going to do it. So why are we talking about it? And I love Matt, but nobody's using Bijan Robinson in the slot. That they might do it occasionally, but they're not using him as a slot receiver consistently. I hear what you're saying, off-season talk, we all do it. But boy, nobody does it. Unless Kyle Shanahan.
Well, the reason why I think that you can do is on that as well too. Not only in this line of a traditional slot, how many times do we see those running backs just run off just to sideline to stand around there? I think you can legit just put them in motion that way. Yeah. Treat him like he's a slot guy. Put him out there slot, and then when all of a sudden the space cleared out, and then you're looking like, oh, I got a mic going out to try to cover. Take that all day. Hurts him say, all right, forget everything else. I'll just let him go 1-on-1. And I'm picking about 7-8 yards and probably more if he shakes somebody. So
same thing.
I think you use them in that type of slot principles. I think you use them a running back in that type of way. He can get some pick up some yardage in that time.
I'm with John on this one. The last back we heard about they could use in the slot was Kenny Gainwell. When they drafted Kenny Gainwell, they said the same thing. And they can split him out and use him in the slot. How many times this year did Kenny Gainwell line up as a wide receiver? 12,
well, they use a bunch of empty
games,
sets, as Chris says, but it's a decoy. It's a decoy. Nobody uses it. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to use a first-round draft pick on a decoy. That's just me. I think that would be a waste of value.
I think he does way more than be a decoy. I think, and especially he runs a lot outside zone very well. And with the tackles that you have, and as much pistol as we started to see them use, especially towards the end of the year, where teams have to really respect to say, hey, you know what? We really don't know if it's actually going to be a zone read. We don't know if they're going to throw it downfield or it's going to be a regular run play. I think when you line him up in a pistol look and you really get him, that puts teams even more of a bind. So I like Bijan. I put Gibbs right there.
I'm not saying he's a great player. I'm just saying nobody in the NFL is using him as a slot receiver. Nobody. Even Kyle, because Kyle's already got Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. Mm-hmm. There are 32 out of 32. Chris, I don't care what they say today. They might line him up in the slot occasionally, once every blue moon, and they might even throw him the football. But I'm saying consistently, nobody's doing that. So I thought they Gibbs like he's your wide receiver 3. No. I thought about you can just use him in that slot position to go ahead and offset some of the stuff if you're worried about Quez really having some issues. He's a running back through and through. I was saying if something happened where you wanted to offset some of the stuff, he didn't want to put all that pressure on Quez. You think you have another option that get him on top of his as a running back because you're going to need one for the next few years anyway. So.
All right, last one for me, and I appreciate the fact that you are NewJersey.com as a Jersey guy. I ran this by Missinelli yesterday. He couldn't jump quickly enough at Jair Brown from Penn State, the former Trenton kid, coming back to the Delaware Valley, and as a Philadelphia Eagle, they could use upgrade at safety. Where do you think he's going in the draft? Do you think the Eagles have interest?
I like him in the 3rd round. I mean, the fact that you get the title of Takeaway King, I'm taking that. All right, you piqued my interest already. All right, cool. Wait, you're from Trenton too? All right. Well, for me, I know I got stories for days if I want to on that one too, but I look at him. I think he can go anywhere from 3rd or 4th. And if I'm the Eagles there and he's still on the board, and you bypass Branch and you're like, and forget the guy from Illinois. Why am I blanking out right now for it? I didn't drink last night. I don't know what's going on. But if you get the guy from Illinois right there, you're going to get it. If those guys are gone, then I think you start to look at him.
Talking about Witherspoon and the person.
The Illinois safety.
Oh, Brown.
Brown. Thank you.
Yeah.
No. Jair.
Brown is the Penn State kid.
Jair. I forget his name. I'm sorry, guys, but when you look at if they're gone and you still need a safety, I think you take him. You seriously consider him in the 3rd round, and it obviously goes by how. The 2nd round, what you do in second, 1st round, all that stuff. But I think he's going to be in the 3rd or 4th, and he's good. He's good. I like his instincts. He's more of a box safety. I like the way and this is going to sound weird because the Eagles don't do it as much as they like to. We may see it. We don't know what we're going to see out of Sean Desai, but I think he's a good pass rusher on the blitz. I like that as well too. If you bring that aspect to there, you can use that as well too. So I think Brown gives you that defense a lot of different tools that they can use and. No,
and
you're
it's
gonna need-
Sydney.
you need a
It
safety.
is Brown. It's Sydney Brown.
Sydney
They're
Brown.
both Brown.
Sydney Brown?
So
Yeah.
Sydney Brown. Yeah, he's big. You know who I want, Chris? And at
Who's that?
St. Franklin News, make sure you follow Chris. Does a tremendous job at nj.com.
Thanks.
Read him there. Brian Branch. I just want the guy. I want him. He's a mirrored player.
Good.
That's what they like. He can play in the slot. He can play safety. I know they've never taken a safety in the first round. I think they want to trade out from 30. He might even go before that. But if he's there, I'm taking him. I'm taking him.
And you know he's got the attributes of playing the SEC and being from Alabama. We see what they've after all those years of not taking all SEC guys. We see what that's going on the last few years too. So he's got that going for him as well too. He does. I like his coverage range. I like what he can do. You can put him in a lot of spots, and I think it's going to be key. Especially you're going to need guys that play that man to man, especially with some of the match concepts. If you put him down closer toward the line of scrimmage and the potential matchup zones concepts they potentially could use, he's a guy that can do that. So he can do a lot. It all depends if the Eagles are willing to trade up at 30 or they move back, depending on how far we move back, because I think he's going to go in the early 20s somewhere in that round because I think he's that good.
All right. Isn't it close between Alabama guys and Georgia guys as to which SEC team the Eagles have the most of? Do you want to swing the balance of power in the locker room by taking an Alabama guy over a Georgia guy? You better be careful, Howie Roseman. That could cause a derision in the locker room if you get more Crimson Tide guys than Dog guy, because the Dog guys are the champs. They're the ones that keep winning the pelt.
Yeah, man.
Not the Alabama guys.
Well, you got to bring in Jarvis Landry, then you bring in the LSU. Nobody runs deeper than LSU guys. You know that those guys stick together. The LSU guys, man.
And we know how awkward it's going to be during the week of the SEC championship game with all those Alabama, Georgia guys in the locker room. What the heck's going on? Oh, that's going to be fun.
Careful, Alabama guy. Chris Franklin, thank you very much for hopping on. We will get you up after the draft to get your analysis thereafter. Thanks for jumping in today.
Hey, guys, thank you very much for having me on. Y'all have a good one now.
That is Chris Franklin. What's the T stand for again? T for Temple U, it's supposed to be, but not for Franklin. T for Trenton?
Chris, yeah, Trenton time. Yeah, let's see. It's South Jersey Times. I'm looking at Lehigh Valley Times of Trenton. So, yeah, it's probably the Trenton Times. He's all over the place.
He wants the Trenton guy, Brown from Penn State, coming back here. 2 days in a row, we've had somebody on who has advocated for the player. Missinelli because it was Happy Valley. Chris Franklin because he was a Trenton high school kid.
We should have asked Gil about a West Virginia guy. Who's the best West Virginia guy in this draft? I got to look it up. But he would have been ballyhooing him, whoever it might be.
Even if he's a UDF. Undrafted free agent.
They gotta have. They're still good enough.
You sure that you think West Virginia's got a guy going in the top?
Well, in the draft, yeah, I think somebody's going to get drafted. I can't tell you who, but
they got to work on that one. Come up with a name of a guy from West Virginia.
All right, I'm going to come.
They weren't real good this past year.
No, I know, but they still got to have some talented players. That's a big enough program. All right, I'm going to find somebody.
One would think. I'll await your name. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We'll come back, put a bow on the show here on Birds 365.